The U.S. House of Representatives remains deadlocked after day one of voting to elect a speaker yielded no results. The last time this happened was almost 100 years ago. Day two of voting is set to get underway today. Meanwhile, news is coming saying that former U.S. President Donald Trump has jumped in to back Kevin McCarthy for House Speaker in 3 back-to-back rounds of voting. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy failed to reach the 218 mark to be elected as Speaker. This despite Republicans now holding a majority in the House. Rather than celebrating their new control of the House, the Republican Party is hit by divisions and name-calling post-midterm elections. Apart from putting McCarthy's political career on the line, this could further deepen internal divisions. The failed votes marked the first time in 100 years that the majority party in the House has not elected a speaker on its first vote. Needing 218 votes in the full House, McCarthy got just 203 in 2 rounds, even less than Democrat Hakeem Jeffries. In the GOP-controlled chamber, 19 of his own party leaders voted against him. As night fell, tensions rose, and all other business came to a halt as well.
So we do not want to be here at this moment. We would prefer to have a unity of purpose, but we will not continue to allow the uniparty to run this town without a fight. There's very little difference between Nancy Pelosi and her California delegation mate that seeks the gavel, and we want to change because this town is broken.
Today, for the first time in 100 years, the House of Representatives failed to organize on opening day. It's a sad day for the House of Representatives as an institution. Sad day for democracy. It's a sad day for the American people. House Democrats are unified, ready, willing, and able to get to work on behalf of everyday Americans. We are prepared to try to find common ground with the other side of the aisle to solve problems on behalf of the American people, but we don't have a willing partner in House Republicans.
The California congressman needed a simple majority to be elected as Washington's top legislator who presides over House business and is second in line to the presidency. During each of 3 voice votes, every Democrat on the floor rallied unanimously around incoming Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. But a number of conservative Republicans split from the party to back other candidates, including longtime McCarthy ally and Republican Jim Jordan. Without a speaker, the House cannot fully form, which includes swearing in its own members, naming its committee chairman, engaging in floor proceedings, and launching the Republicans' proposed investigation against the Biden administration. The chaos and confusion in the House is also pointing to a difficult road ahead for the Republican Party that is in control of the House right now. Republicans won a narrow 222 to 212 majority in the House of Representatives in November's midterm elections. McCarthy or any other candidate for Speaker will need to unify a fractious caucus to win the gavel. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Democrats hold a slim majority. The Senate is not scheduled to come back until the 23rd of January for a vote. All right, for more on this, Elizabeth Braw is joining us. She's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute from Washington, D.C. Elizabeth, thank you for coming back. You know, it's an extraordinary state of affairs in the U.S. House as a 4th vote for Speaker approaches. It's interesting that what we were seeing was some calling it, this is, you know, a state of democracy. This is how democracy works. Others saying that this was an absolute embarrassment. Do you think that McCarthy will prevail? And do you think the Republican Party will ultimately overcome their divisions?
As you say, it's an extraordinary state of affairs, and it's something that we're not used to seeing, neither in the United States nor in any other liberal democracy. But what it reflects is this underlying division in the Republican Party between the traditional Republicans, as they used to be until Donald Trump came along, and then the Trumpian incarnation of the Republican Party. And that hasn't really been that obvious in the past 2 years. Simply because we've had Democrats legislature. But what we're seeing now is that it's rather different if you have the majority to unite the factions within your party, because it actually matters. And it matters not just to America, but to the rest of the world, because what this Congress decides has enormous implications for countries ranging from India to Ukraine to Russia. And so it really is an extraordinary state of affairs. And we should remember that a lot of these divisions within the Republican Party have to do with America's role in the world. So, should America become more isolationist? Should it be more interventionist? These are the sort of issues that the Trumpian Republicans and the traditionalist Republicans disagree about.
Yeah, it's important to note that the Freedom Caucus, which these 19 Republicans that oppose McCarthy are part of, have numerous other members that do support McCarthy. And a lot of them, this Freedom Caucus, what's known as the populist wing, perhaps, of the Republican Party, they don't want as much funding going to Ukraine. As you mentioned, the international implications of how the new House is going to operate, so on and so forth. So they're, trying to vie for someone like Jim Jordan. But at the end of the day, how do you read all of this in the bigger picture on the state of the GOP moving forward? I mean, is this a preview of what we're going to see on how the GOP is going to operate in the House, at least?
It certainly is, and we should remember that even though Trump lost the previous election, he lingers on like no other election loser I've ever seen, and I think anybody else has ever seen. Usually, when a candidate loses an election, that person fades into some sort of obscurity. Doesn't really play a role in politics anymore. They go into the private sector. They may take on a different political role, but they keep a much lower profile. Trump remains an extremely powerful force, not as powerful as it was maybe a couple of years ago, but still extremely powerful, and keeps influencing the Republican Party. And we should remember that he has been weighing in on the issue of whether McCarthy should be elected or not, elected Speaker of the House or not. So it's this division keeps on lingering. And when it comes to the isolationist wing or the Trumpian wing of the Republican Party, we should remember that so the isolationist versus interventionist wing, that these are divisions that have little to do with traditional ideology, because there are people on the far left of the Democratic Party that likewise say or argue, make the point that the United States should not be funding, giving as much money and weapons to Ukraine. So it's what we're seeing is in a micro sort of way the dissolution, or the beginning of the dissolution of the party structure as it has been, or the party ideologies as they have been formed over the past few decades, because some Republicans are agreeing with far left Democrats on Ukraine and similar issues. So it will be fascinating to watch this Congress over the next couple of years to see how these new groups perhaps continue to align and emerge. But in the first instance, a new speaker has to be elected, and McCarthy doesn't look very good. On the other hand, there's no other candidate that's more viable than he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Jordan has said that he doesn't even want the job. And for now, Donald Trump is back in backing Kevin McCarthy. So we'll watch very closely today. Elizabeth Shaw, it's always a pleasure to speak to you from the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us. There's been global criticism of Israeli far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir's visit to the Al-Aqsa compound in Jerusalem. Western governments have warned that such moves threaten the fragile status quo at Jerusalem's holy site. Israel's new far-right national security minister Ben-Gvir visited the compound on Tuesday. He was surrounded by security guards while a drone hovered above the holy site. Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest place in Islam and the most sacred site to Jews, who refer to the compound as the Temple Mount under the status quo. Non-Muslims can visit the site at specific times, but they are not allowed to pray there. Hours after Ben-Gvir's visit, Israel's ally, the United States, said that it stands firm on preserving the status quo of Jerusalem's holy site.
So this is the mosque that you're talking about by the National Security Advisor there. Look, so the United States stands firmly, and we've been very clear for preservation of the status quo with respect to the holy sites in Jerusalem. Any unilateral action that jeopardizes the status quo is unacceptable, and we will continue to be steadfast on that and be very clear on that.
We're deeply concerned by any unilateral actions that have the potential to exacerbate tensions, precisely because we want to see the opposite happen.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called, quote, on all to refrain from steps that could escalate tensions in and around the holy site. Germany urged, quote, everyone to avoid actions that could increase tensions. The UAE and Morocco, which established diplomatic ties with Israel in 2020, spoke out against Ben-Gvir's visit to Al-Aqsa compound. In fact, Israeli media has reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's planned visit to the UAE next week has now been postponed till next month, although the Prime Minister's aides have denied its link to Ben-Gvir's move. These reports emerged shortly after the UAE condemned the Israeli minister's visit to the contested site. According to diplomats, UAE and China have also asked the UN Security Council to meet over the issue. It's a visit that has caused rage among the Palestinians. The Palestinian Prime Minister called Ben-Gvir's visit, quote, storming of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and a violation of all norms, international law, and commitment of Israel to the American president.
إن اقتحام الوزير الإسرائيلي بن غفير للمسجد الأقصى المبارك صباح اليوم يشكل تحدي خطير لمشاعر جميع أبناء الشعب الفلسطيني.
هذا خطير لأنه صاحب فكرة السيطرة على الأقصى وصاحب فكرة تقسيم الزمان والمكاني.
Israel security forces have reportedly confirmed that a rocket was launched towards Israel from Gaza last night, but it fell within the Gaza Strip. The visit has drawn a fierce condemnation from across the Muslim world. The leader of Lebanon's powerful armed Hezbollah movement has said that any change in the status quo at the Al-Aqsa Mosque could lead to an explosion in the region. In an apparent effort to calm anger over the visit, an official in Israeli Prime Minister's office has said that Benjamin Netanyahu is fully committed to the status quo that allows only Muslims to worship at the site. Amid the war of words between Taliban and Pakistan over Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan's hideout in Afghanistan, the United States has come out in support of Islamabad, Pakistan. The U.S. has said that the Pakistani people have suffered tremendously from terrorist attacks and that Pakistan has a right to defend itself from terrorism. Take a listen.
The Pakistani people have suffered tremendously from terrorist attacks. Pakistan has a right to defend itself from terrorism. And meanwhile, we continue, just as I said a moment ago, to call on the Taliban to uphold the very commitment they have made to see to it that Afghan soil is never again used as a launch pad for international terrorist attacks.
Now, this comes days after Pakistan's interior minister warned of an attack on Pakistan's hideouts in Afghanistan, saying if authorities in Kabul fail to take action against them, the international gives you the right to target those who attack you. The comments evoked a strong response from the Taliban, hitting at a befitting response to Pakistan. On Tuesday, a Taliban leader tweeted out quite a strong comeback. Ahmad Yasir posted a picture of Pakistan surrendering to India during the 1971 war. A translated caption of the picture read, "This is Afghanistan, the graveyard of proud empires. Do not think of a military attack on us. Otherwise, there will be a shameful repetition of the military agreement with India." Earlier, also, Taliban stated that they would not allow anyone to attack Afghanistan, with its spokesperson, Zabiullah Mujahid, saying that Afghanistan wants to have good relations with Pakistan, but its officials should use caution when they are making comments. Meanwhile, former Afghan President Hamid Karzai also called upon Islamabad to stop issuing threats and carry out, quote, deep review of its policies related to the neighboring country, saying that a prevailing insecurity in Pakistan is the result of policies of its government. On Monday, Pakistan held its National Security Council meeting, and as per the press release issued by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's office, the forum concluded that no country will be allowed to provide sanctuaries and facilitation to terrorists, and Pakistan reserves all rights in that respect to safeguard its people. Moving on, let's take you to Europe, where U.S. troop deployment in Romania serves a dual purpose of sending out a warning to Moscow while boosting morale among NATO allies in Southeast Europe to hold the line. It is the first time since the Second World War, 75 years ago, that the U.S. Army's 101 Airborne Division has returned to Europe. The division's rare presence is just a few miles from the Ukrainian border with Romania and is a clear indication that Washington is aiming to support NATO allies without being directly involved in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. U.S. troops are training at an airbase in Romania in the northern part of the country. Soldiers from both countries participated in drills, fired artillery, launched helicopters, and dug trenches near the front lines in Kherson. The troop deployment underlines a warning sign to Moscow that the U.S. will defend every inch of NATO territory, a pledge President Biden has reiterated often in recent days, but without tempting Russia into escalating the war. The joint exercises are also a way to ensure that other troops in Southeast Europe can hold ground if it comes to it. However, it remains unclear what footprint will the U.S. Army keep at the base. The decision will soon be made by the Pentagon as to whether to maintain the number of troops and senior commanders there or bring the number down. Meanwhile, developments in the U.S. Congress might also see an impact in the U.S. aid to Ukraine in the coming months. A small but significant number of American lawmakers are weary of the cost of meeting Ukraine's continued demands. Back in October, senior Republican Kevin McCarthy said that his party might not be too willing to write a blank check to Ukraine. An important part of NATO's defense structure is military presence in the eastern part of the alliance's territory. The allies have enhanced NATO's presence by establishing multinational battle groups in these nations. But even among supporters of maintaining a strong presence in Eastern Europe, who have pointed out that the U.S. and NATO did not do enough to deter Russia from launching an invasion last February.
Let's go! 49.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
It's that time of the year when tech companies from around the world showcase new innovations at the world's biggest tech show, the Consumer Electronics Show. Look at this stroller. It's not a regular stroller. It's a high-tech pram that is powered by robotics and machine learning. The Ella Smart stroller can drive itself when there is no baby inside. Let's say when your toddler wants to be held rather than pushed. Also, it's equipped with sensors that watch for obstacles or danger, like a speeding car, and alert the person who is pushing it. The high-tech gadget has been designed to make parents' lives a little bit easier. But to our surprise, this parenting tech is quite expensive. It costs $3,300. Here's our pick of quirky technologies and wackiest gadgets that are making a lot of noise at the tech extravaganza. Designed by a Japanese company, the Flurry is referred to as an anxiety-reducing cushion. It features a gentle, rhythmical pulsation as the main therapeutic tool. The idea is that when you hug the cushion, its lifelike behavior stimulates your belly to induce slower and deeper breathing. French consumer electronics company Withings is usually known for its sleek smartwatches, but it shows up as CES each year with ambitious health gadgets. This year, it wants you to urinate on its latest device. We are not kidding. The company has unveiled what it calls the U-Scan. It's an at-home hands-free urine lab that you stick in your toilet. The device can help scan people's urine. It's initially intended as a way of supporting decentralized clinical trials. The company hopes to offer it as a consumer health tech device for the future. And that's not all. L'Oreal has unveiled a motorized lipstick applicator for people with limited hand and arm mobility. According to the company, the system has smart motion controls and consumable attachments to enable precise application. As the company claims, the battery-powered tool takes 3 hours to fully charge and can then last for 1 hour of continuous use. Well, the CES is still underway. We will continue to get you updates on interesting gadgets from the tech show. That's all the time we have for WION Live Broadcast from New York City with me, Susan Teherani. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. But don't go away. More news and headlines coming up on WION World is One. Goodbye for now.
There are many other Arab.
WION, now available on Spotify and Google Podcast. It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker, weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT. Reading between the lines. Deep diving into the big story of the day. From political turmoil to economic crisis. From the brazen to the bizarre. In the world of technology, sports and fashion. News from Earth to outer space. We bring you the harsh ground realities, as well as the finer things from this planet and beyond. Only on fine print at these times on WION.
This new year, join me on WION with 2 weekly shows that will keep you informed. This World, a show that wraps the world's biggest global stories and brings you up close with the biggest newsmakers. and a 30-minute show that aims to bring the India story to the world. We help you understand global developments from an Indian perspective. I'm Vikram Chandra, and this is WION. World is One, taking India's voice to the world. There's a lot of noise out there. How do we remove the clutter and cut to the chase? How do we step aside from divisive agendas to get to the truth? How can we be informed in a sea of disinformation? In a global world, we need to be aware of what's happening across